Hello friends, we're still well into winter and got quite a ways to go until we get to spring or ready to plant anything in the garden. But in order to have some plants ready to go, we have to start them now. It's the middle of February, and that's traditionally the time that we always start several of our different kinds of crops, and those crops are peppers. I usually start all the peppers now. If I was growing stuff like ghost peppers and habaneros that grow a little slower, I would like to start them a couple weeks earlier, but I'm only growing a type of habanero this year that is not supposed to be quite as hot. Hopefully it has the same fruity flavor to it, which is what I really like, but I just don't care for so much heat, so I'm growing one that's supposed to be a little milder. And then I start my brassicas, which include broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage. I'll plant a little bit of Chinese cabbage, but in our area Chinese cabbage doesn't do the best in the spring. It does better for us in the fall, because in the spring you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes it stays cool and gives it time to develop, and sometimes it just goes hot, and when it goes hot the Chinese cabbage just kind of rots and melts into a big gooey yucky puddle. So I'll do a little bit of Chinese cabbage just so we can have access to some, and then I'll have to look to see what else I'm going to do. Well, where I am right now is in our old certified kitchen. This is where we did all of our baking for our farmers market sales. We had a really established bakery business there, and it kind of got abandoned after we quit doing that about 1.5 years ago. But for this spring, this is a counter right here, a big long counter, and we hung lights above, and they're suspended down right above the counter, and then inside there we've got some heat mats. They're for starting seeds, and so they usually keep it about 10 to 15 degrees above the ambient temperature, and we're going to try to keep it in here around 70 degrees, so the things I want to start will do well at around 85 degrees. What I use for my seed germination is Burger BM2. It's a really fine soil mix that makes it easy for the seeds to come up through. And it's actually pretty cold because it was out in my van. So kind of needs to thaw out a little bit. The way we have our lights set up is kind of hillbilly rigged, I guess, or homesteader rigged. That's what we're pretty good at. We've got 4 units here, and each unit has 4 light bulbs in it. Plugged in here, and then the wires just run from unit to unit, a circuit, and all 4 of them come on at the same time. We're not going to have any human beings messing with them around here, no children or anything, so you know it probably doesn't pass code, but this is what we do, and this is the way we do it. I've set a table up in here, and I've got a batch of soil in my bowl. Like I said, it's pretty cold, and I wish I had some warm water to put on it, but we don't have the water heater turned on in here right now. I've just got some room temperature water that I'm gonna pour in here. And I'm not gonna drench this. I just want it a little bit damp, because if it's dry it won't take up water when you try to water your tray of seeds. It will just kind of sit on top. I got my soil warmed up, and I actually put the whole bowl on top of the stove, because we have 3 stoves in here, and got it warmed up a little bit. Okay, this is what I use to start my seeds in. I call these hot dog trays, and I guess you can probably see because they have these channels in here, and they come in a tray that's about like that all put together, but they always have a tendency to break in half or several places, so these are ones that I've had for quite a while. That one's even got a spider egg nest in there, so they've cracked, and I've just cut them in half. And what I do is put my soil in there. I don't pack it down at first. I just put it in here and level it off. After I've got it leveled off and pretty full and even all over the place, I'll take another tray and set it on top of there and just press it down. And then that makes little indented rows in my channels, and a good place for a seed to fall down into the bottom of that ditch there. For this single tray, I'm going to put 3 different kinds of seeds in there. And I can do this partly because I know what they look like when they come up, and partly because I'm going to be really careful where I put them, and I'm going to label them to show me where I'm going to put them. And the first one I'm going to plant is some sun sugar cherry tomato seeds. I've got what should be 25 seeds in here, but I don't want all 25 seeds. See how tiny those seeds are? They're less than half as big as a regular tomato seed. So what I'm going to do is try to put 12 seeds down this first channel. I'm going to space them as evenly apart as I can. But right here on my package it tells me that the germination rate of these is 95%. So I know that almost every seed is going to come up. And then in the next channel I'm planting some blue Vantage cabbage. And whenever the seeds come up, the blue Vantage cabbage looks very different from a tomato seedling. And I don't want a whole lot of this, but I might see if I put in like 25 seeds, which I think I probably put in more than 25 seeds. And I can put 25 seeds across there. It's okay. It's just a little bitty strip, but by the time they're ready to put into another bigger cell, then you know, they'll all come apart easily, and it won't be any problem that there's only a small amount of soil. In my opinion, it's better to do it like this and transplant them into something bigger than to try to put them into a bigger cell at this point. You can't control the amount of seeds hardly that you get into a cell, and I can put the stems of these down in the soil a little better and have a stockier plant. And then next what I'm going to put in is some sweet banana peppers, and they look different when they come up from both the cherry tomatoes and the cabbage plants. What I do is make a little V with my package and try to tap the side to work the seeds down to the bottom and control, if I can, how fast they come out. This process takes some patience. I think I would like to have about a dozen of these plants, so I'm gonna just fill that up. I probably have like 20 or 25 seeds in there. I'm not afraid to throw plants away if they don't suit my needs. I'm perfectly fine to throw a little seedling away. It's not like I'm killing somebody. So I'm laying them down here. I know my first one was the sun sugar, my second one was blue Vantage, my third one is sweet banana. Next I'm going to do something that's a little bit different from any of those, and that is I'm going to start some celery. I actually haven't planted any celery for a while, and I thought, look to see what that is like planting dust. I hate planting tiny little seeds like that. So just got to try to thin them, make them as thin as possible. And I know I overdid it, so oh well. This whole package of seeds only cost me $1, so if I have to throw a lot of them away, I don't care. Next I'm going to do some onion chives, and they're pretty small seeds too, but not nearly as small as those celery seeds. Next I'll do some butter crunch lettuce. That's what this looks like. They're a little bit longer seeds. Most of what I've been planting is either little tiny round ones or flat ones, circles. That's what the peppers are, and that's what usually the tomato seeds are. This time I'm going to just do it with my fingers like this, and I'm going to fill up both rows with the lettuce. Now what I need to do is take some of my fine potting soil and scatter it over the top. I don't want to disturb my seeds. I want them to stay where they are, and I'm just going to brush that along. It's easy. Make it level. Don't want to bury anything too much. There's not anything in here that is delicate. Now there are some seeds that you have to not put under the soil, so you have to know the characteristics of what you're planting, but I think I should be good with all the. When you put your dirt in on top of the seeds, I would advise you not to leave it mounded up above the ridges of the channels, because the roots can climb over that and get over into the next channel. So what I do is brush that all off even so that the tops of your channels show. They will be sprouting at different rates, I'll grant you that, but probably the first ones to sprout will be the cabbage plants and the lettuce plants, because they're pretty quick. I've seen cabbage plants sprout in like 18 or 20 hours if the temperature was just right. If I have to take this cabbage out before the rest of them are ready, I can just slip that whole channel of soil with the plants in it and take that apart and transplant that. So I really like these channel trays instead of one big tray full of soil, and gives me a lot more control of what's going on. Now what I'll do is get a tray of warm water and let that soak from the bottom. I'm not going to water that from the top because it would just wash it all around and dislodge my seeds. Well, after I get all of them planted and get all of my little tags in that shows what I've got planted on each row, then I like to use a cover like this. And with these trays, I want it to be all the way down onto the heat mat. So what I'll have to do for each one of them is to turn it sideways and cover that. The reason I like to cover it, two reasons basically. It keeps the heat in there and keeps the moisture in there to a point, although I think every day this cover ought to be taken off for a few minutes. But also, in case there are any mice around, mice love pepper seeds especially, and they'll come in here and riddle all of your work, all of your money, and they don't care. They just love to do that. They love to dig in the dirt and eat that. So I'm covering it to keep the mice out for the most part. Now I'm ready to slide it in underneath my lights onto my heat mat. So up underneath there, I've got my 3 trays, and they're pretty spread out right now because I don't have very much. But see, up right above them is a light. And as soon as those little seedlings pop out, they're going to be looking for a light. And if they have one, they'll grow nice and strong and stocky. If they don't have a light, they'll get all leggy and horrible looking. So we've got the beginnings of the garden season going. I mean, I guess actually the beginning of it was whenever I decided what I was going to grow and bought the seeds, but the next step is well on its way, and I'll show you whenever they come up, and I'll show you how I transplant the little seedlings in a future video, so be watching for that. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.